Hi, I'm Curious Vedant, and welcome to season 6 of my podcast. Today, my guest is Tushaar Bajaj, who is the co founder of Virtus Motors, an electric vehicle design, development, and manufacturing company. All their products are proudly made in India. Hi, Tushar. Welcome to my show.
Hi Vedant, thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. I really like vehicles and electric vehicles. So, this is going
No,
to be a really fun interview for me.
hopefully, let's see.
So, Tushar, I'm curious to know more about what Virtus Motors does.
Okay, so Virtus Motors is basically a company that manufactures electric vehicles. We currently manufacture electric cycles that can be, you can basically ride it in three ways. One is on throttle, so you don't even need to pedal it while you ride it. The other being a pedal assist mode, where when you pedal, the motor gives you an assistance to move forward. So your effort to pedal is a lot lower. And then third, obviously, you can turn the system off completely and you can ride it like a normal cycle. So that is one of the products that we currently make. Then at Virtus, we also do a lot of development work for electric two-wheelers and three-wheelers. So we have products in the pipeline for deliveries as well as for commute.
By three wheelers, do you mean like auto rickshaws and stuff like that?
Yes. A bit of auto rickshaws, and then we have some products for the delivery. It's not the size of an auto rickshaw, but it serves the purpose of deliveries.
That sounds really interesting. Do you ever plan to make cars?
We did plan to make cars in our initial days. We still have plans to make cars in the future, but building cars requires a lot of capital, which we are building up at this point.
Yeah, that would be really nice. I've never ridden an electric bike.
You should try one.
Yeah, in Singapore, it's really hard to get one though. More about that later. And like, but I've only ridden in electric cars, not even fully electric ones, just hybrids. Actually, I've been on one fully electric car,
Which one was it?
the Tata Nexon.
Okay. Mhm. That's one of the best cars currently in India.
Yeah, it was a sport edition. So when when my relative put it on sport mode and put his foot on the accelerator, my head was stuck to the chair.
Yeah, that's because electric cars normally have a lot of torque. So when you push the throttle, all that torque from the batteries to the motors goes and gives you that kind of a push that you get, even very similar to how you get it on aircrafts, right? When you take off.
Yeah.
So that's torque. It's the same across almost all electric vehicles. The initial torque that you get on any electric vehicle is higher than the comparable IC engine vehicle.
What is the process of designing an electric bike? Is it like designing a normal bicycle and just adding like a few wires and batteries on, or is it completely different?
So there are two ways to do this. One is the way that you just mentioned, that you have a net cycle and then you can put in a battery and wires and the motor. But those are not built to purpose because, like I just said, the torque requirement or the torque that an electric motor gives is a lot higher than the torque that you would generate with your pedaling. So you need to actually build a vehicle or design a vehicle that can sustain that kind of torque. So that is, you basically start off with a CAD design, then you do your FEA analysis or a finite element analysis, where you test all of these stresses on the frame, on the members, and then build it based on what requirements you have. So you can do it in this way, but it is advisable to build it from scratch.
Wow. So that means it's much more complicated. Can you take me through
It
the
is.
design process?
The design process basically starts off with a sketch. Uh, we basically start with benchmarking all our competitors to start with, and then we sketch the design idea that we want to build. Once we have a sketch, we then translate that into a CAD software or a computer-aided design software where we build the frame, the bodywork, we integrate the controllers, the converters, the motors, the power delivery system, all your handlebars, seats, electronics, everything is built into a computer-aided design software. Once the design is complete, we then do a finite element analysis, or FEA as we call it, to check if all the stresses and strains on the frame according to real world conditions and make sure that the frame performs as per our requirement. Once we are okay with the FEA results, we then go into prototyping where we start building the frame to start with. Then we start integrating all our electronics onto the frame. We put the bodywork on. Then we go into testing. The real world testing will give us a correlation between what tests we did on FEA versus what tests we did on the real world. If the tests match up, then we go ahead and get into a pre-production model where we build about 10 to 15 vehicles just to check the repeatability and the assembly. And then we go into production. So that's basically the whole process of how we build electric two-wheelers currently.
Wow, that sounds really nice.
And
So, do you only build like electric bicycles or also electric scooters, like those ones where you use your leg to propel?
no, we don't build those scooters yet. You're talking about the kick scooters, I'm assuming.
Yeah, like those ones where you stand on it and you use your leg.
Right.
I
We
have one
don't
of
build them.
those.
I find them really unsafe. So I we basically skip building those. So what I think is the wheels are too small, and for Indian road conditions with the potholes that we have, it's not safe at all to ride it.
In Singapore too. In Singapore, like all the roads are really neat and like the sidewalks are really flat, so it
Right.
doesn't matter.
But in India, it's not the case.
Yeah,
And our market is predominantly India, so we try and build products for India.
yeah. Because I have one of those, like I said.
You should put on a helmet and all the guards when you ride it, just to be safe.
Yeah. I also have one of those mountain bikes.
Mhm, mhm.
You make electric mountain bikes, right?
We do, yes. We have two models in electric cycles, which are mountain bikes. One is uh, a normal mountain bike with a front suspension, and then we have a fat bike with a wider tire, which can go off-road and work on snow and sand. So
Wow.
we have two models.
Wow, that sounds really cool. Cycling on snow.
Yeah, so there are companies who are building more than just cycles for the snow, and there are companies who are building electric snowmobiles as well today.
That's cool. Can you explain to me how an electric bike works?
Okay. So an electric bike basically works on the principle of battery power. So you have a battery power, which is basically your accumulator where all the energy is stored, and you have a motor, which basically propels you forward. So the power from the battery to the motor is controlled by something called a controller or a vehicle control unit. So whenever you give an input on your throttle or on your pedal, it is to the controller, and the controller then decides how much power to pull from the battery to give it to the motor. So this is the basic concept of how an electric vehicle or an electric bike works.
Wow, I did not do it like that. I thought it was like example my phone where I plug it in and it just stores power.
Mhm.
I didn't
So
know
it
that.
is the same. It is very similar to how a phone runs, but you can plug in the electric bike to your normal wall socket and charge the battery. But that's the battery. Once the battery is completely charged, that is when it is powering your motor. But to power the motor, there is a controller in between, which basically takes your input. So just like your touch screens, right, where you give the phone an input to perform tasks, the same concept is followed by electric bike. So you have to give it an input, and then the controller basically pushes your battery to give power to the motor.
Imagine if you're just cycling in the middle of nowhere and you suddenly realize, oh, my bike stopped working.
Yeah, then you can pedal it out. So
Yeah.
you don't have battery power anymore, but you do have your legs to pedal out of your situation. So use
Yeah.
your feet to move forward. So that's the fun of having electric cycles, right? Even if your battery is completely depleted, you still can pedal out of your situation, or at least reach to a point where you can charge your battery again, and you'll not have to push it.
For me, it's really surprising. I thought that charging the battery, once I learned from you just now, would be like those Teslas where you need a
Mhm,
special socket in a big garage with lots of
mhm.
power. I didn't know you could just plug it into any socket.
Yeah, so electric bicycles have a very small battery pack as compared to a electric car. So you don't need so much power from the grid per se. So you can just plug it like a normal laptop to any wall socket and you can charge the battery up. It takes a while to charge it, about 3 to 4 hours, but you're good to go for about 30 kilometers on it.
Wow, that's a lot. That's like how much time it takes to charge my remote control batteries.
Yeah, it's very similar to that.
Yeah, but the only thing is my remote control cars can't go for 30 kilometers.
Yeah, because the batteries are smaller.
Yeah. I've read about a lot of fire accidents that take place with electric bikes and
Mhm,
scooters. Why do they
mhm.
happen and what are the measures to avoid such accidents?
So fires happen for a mix of reasons. I cannot pinpoint on one particular reason for why fire hazards happen on electric bikes in general. Uh, but from what we know, there are three things that I can talk to you about why fires happen. One is not maintaining your battery properly. So we recommend all our customers to, when they use the cycle or when they use the battery, to let it cool down for about half an hour before you put it on charge, because batteries are highly combustible. So when you use it, just give it a rest for about half an hour, and then put it on charge. The same thing when you want to use the battery once it is completely charged, just leave it for half an hour to just let it settle and then use it. So basically, what that does is, so batteries have chemicals inside them. They have a cathode and they have an anode. I'll not get into technical details, but since there is a chemical reaction which is happening inside battery packs, it is always advisable to maintain it properly. The other reason could be using cheaper cells that are currently in a lot of markets. These cheaper cells are not built according to electric vehicle requirements. These can be used for other battery purposes like your power banks. But for electric vehicle requirements, you need batteries which perform to a very high capacity. So that could be another reason. The third reason that I can see is how you build the battery pack itself. So a battery pack is built with a number of cells put together in series and parallel, and you have a battery management system that you use to basically control the charge and discharge for the batteries. So if you don't build your battery pack properly, it can result in fires that you currently see, which have reduced a lot because of the new regulations coming in into India. Uh, but yeah, that's what I think are the three major reasons: not having good maintenance, not using good cells, and not making the pack properly.
Wow. In Singapore, it happens like while charging, suddenly there's like a spark and then it like
Mhm.
explodes.
Mhm. That could be because of, like I said, not maintaining the battery properly. So if you use your vehicle and you put it on charge directly, it might not be the best idea.
Is it okay to drive electric bikes in the rain? Like, could that be a reason?
No. So water does not affect uh, battery packs as much. Even if you do drive in the rain, most of these battery packs are water resistant, if not waterproof completely. So that is not one of the reasons that would, get a fire out of a battery pack.
Okay, because I know, like in some cases, if water gets into an electrical component, it can
Mhm.
spark, and there could be some it could be really bad.
It could be, but these components really don't spark and don't combust with water per se,
Hmm.
because you need a lot of water going inside the battery pack for that to happen. But these battery packs are normally built uh, to withstand water or resist water from ingress into the components. So I don't really think water is one of the major reasons.
Okay, so now that means if I buy an electric bike and I do my normal weekend heavy rain riding with my father, it should be safe.
It should be, but I would not recommend you to ride it in heavy rain. On normal rains or just drizzling is fine. So it is an electronic vehicle at the end of the day. So just keep yourself safe when you're riding it.
Mhm. What are the safety measures that people who ride electric bikes need to keep in mind? Do people require a license to ride them? Because in Singapore, you do. I think a few months ago, there was this big debate whether you need a number plate and a driver's license to ride a
Mhm,
bike or not. And I think
mhm,
you need a driver license. And
mhm.
I don't think I'm old enough to get one.
Okay. So there are two segments of electric vehicles in India. I'm not sure about the regulations in Singapore, but in India, you have two segments. One is a low speed segment, and one is a high speed segment. In the low speed segment, you basically have electric vehicles that cannot go over 25 kilometers per hour with a motor power of not more than 250 watts continuous. And in the high speed segment, you can go with whatever motor capacity you want. And your top speed is again not limited. So in India, in the low speed segment, you do not need a license or a registration to ride these vehicles. The high speed segment, you obviously still need your license and registration to ride the vehicles. What we currently build are all low speed vehicles. So these don't exceed 25 kilometers per hour and do not have a motor capacity of more than 250 watts continuous. But we are building vehicles in the high speed segment as well. So for those, you would still need license and registration. So you're safer in India than in Singapore. So
Yeah, I think 25 kilometers per hour is a lot for a bicycle.
it is, yes, it is enough for a bicycle.
Yeah,
Anything over that is a bit too fast for a cycle.
yeah. Imagine if you're going like at 50 kilometers per hour and you need to
Mhm.
suddenly brake, you would flip over.
You wouldn't flip over, you wouldn't even brake because cycle brakes are not built to withstand 50 kilometers per hour. So if you're on the road, you might just crash into something else
Yeah,
and then flip.
yeah, that's what I meant. Because I live on top of a hill, and when
Mhm,
I'm cycling down, I need to
mhm.
keep on holding onto the brakes. Because if I don't, I'll go.
Yeah. So it's very similar to India as well. So if you are going too fast, you won't be able to brake.
Especially in the rain here. Like once I was also going down a ramp in my bike with my
Mhm,
dad, and then there was a turning, so I braked, and
mhm,
while braking, I did a drift. But instead of
Mhm,
drifting into the corner, I
mhm,
drifted into the wall.
mhm,
Luckily, I braked before I could hit the wall.
mhm, mhm. I hope you wear your helmet and your guards when you're out.
I do.
Good. You should.
And my back was completely muddy because we had just been on we had just been on the like a really muddy patch.
Mhm, mhm. That must have been fun at one point.
It was.
Not so much fun for your parents, I'm assuming.
My dad actually liked it. My mom didn't come. She had some work. Would the battery pack get damaged if you ride in the mud and mud splashes on it?
No, so these battery packs have enclosures which are basically water resistant and do not allow any uh, outside particles to come into it. So even if you're riding it in the mud, in the sand, if you're riding it on trails, you'll not have a problem. You just need to wipe off the pack once you're done riding it. So these enclosures are either plastic or metal. So you don't need to worry about
Yeah. I wish Singapore didn't need you to have a driver's license. It would be so fun driving an electric bike.
it. Let me check the regulations. I'm not sure if Singapore does not allow all electric vehicles, or let me check the regulations still.
I think, yeah, but that's what I heard in the newspaper. It is, I think, like early 2022. So if only
Mhm,
I had bought or I had a chance to ride a bike before 2022, then that would have been
mhm.
good.
Yeah, but let me check with the regulations because I think electric cycles are still allowed to be ridden without licenses across many cities in the world. So let
No,
me still check Singapore
no,
because
people,
I am pretty sure in Croatia, in uh, in Europe, in the US, you are allowed to ride these cycles without any license or registration. But
yeah.
Singapore, I have not explored yet.
Like all the food delivery people, they use electric bikes. You
Mhm,
always
mhm.
see a registration.
Okay.
And I've pretty much been to every corner of Singapore, and I haven't
Mhm,
seen any person my age ride a electric bike.
mhm. Okay.
So yeah,
You will grow up eventually.
yeah, I will. I will. When I have a driver's license, I think the first thing that Singapore would call a vehicle, which
Mhm,
you need a driver's license for, an
mhm.
electric bike. That's what I'm gonna get.
Good. You should.
I've always wanted to ride one.
Mhm, mhm. How far off are you in
Right?
terms of age?
And then I think I need to be 16, so I guess 6 more years.
6 more years. Not too far away.
Yeah. You studied automotive and motorsports engineering. What are the
Mhm.
possible career paths after completing a course like that?
Uh, so it depends on your interest. So you can get into design, you can get into motorsports. In automotive and motorsport engineering, there are a number of subjects that you can get into. You can get into maybe thermodynamics, fluid mechanics. You can get into motorsports like Formula One that's just popped up behind you. So you can get into teams like Formula One or Formula E, or you can get into MotoGP, where again there are multiple teams like design, strategy, operations. So there are multiple paths depending on what your interest lies in.
Yeah, I think if I ever do that course, I'll choose either the design for a
Mhm,
motorsports team or
mhm.
the driver for a motorsports team.
So for being a driver, you don't need a engineering degree,
Yeah, but yeah,
but for design you would.
I think I'll do the design.
Yeah, design is a good subject. It so basically you will be helping the drivers of your car win championships at that point. So it all depends on how the vehicle is designed. At the end of the day, it's if your design is good and you are performing, then your driver can perform. If your design is not good and your vehicle does not perform, your driver cannot do anything about it. So engineering is always the backbone of any major industry.
Yeah, and seeing this Netflix documentary about F1 called Drive to Survive,
Yeah, I
and
was just watching that.
yeah, and in that, in the
Hmm.
2022 season, since there were new regulations, there was
Hmm.
lots of porpoising, which is basically like bouncing,
Right,
and
right,
they were like, there must be something wrong with the design of the car. Because
right. So
they had to,
porpoising is basically an aerodynamic effect. So if it's basically your car hitting the ground and going back up from the rear, because the aerodynamic drag that a car creates is a lot higher than they anticipated, and Mercedes couldn't really, you know, uh, get rid of their porpoising the whole season last season. Do you
yeah,
follow Formula One by any chance?
yeah, I do.
I'm a crazy fan.
Me too. Yeah, because the car looked a bit too fast.
Mhm. It's not about being fast, it's just the aerodynamics. So, how the air flows through the vehicle and on top of the vehicle. It's all based on that.
Yeah, and they also practically had zero side pods.
Yeah. So, that is a very interesting concept that they had. And they're still running it this year as well. If you've followed the practice sessions
Yeah.
or the preseason tests that just finished yesterday. So, that is a very unique concept. Let's see how they fare this year.
Yep. I think the teams would have gotten used to the porpoising and fixed it.
Yeah, I think all of the teams this year from pre-season testing that I saw, they have fixed their proposing issues.
Yep. Anyway, back to the interview.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. What made you decide to start an automotive company?
So I think as long as I can remember, even when I was in school, I always wanted to, do something in the automotive sector. So I used to build like these toothpaste box cars and stuff, remote controlled cars, and a lot of, tinkering around with motors, putting wheels on them and building something or the other. So I think I've always had a peak interest in this sector. So that's where my education background also came into play. So I wanted to do only automotive engineering when I was scouting colleges. And then I wanted to do automotive again in my master's as well. So I think it is the interest that I have had since a very early age. And once I had the opportunity to build products on my own, I think I jumped to it.
Yeah. You said you used to build toothpaste box cars, right?
Yeah,
I build Lego cars.
right. We had, you're still very young. So when I was, I think, a little older than you were, Legos were still very new to India.
Yeah, like I have the Porsche 911, Ferrari
Mhm.
488, and
Mhm.
McLaren MCL 36.
Oh, nice. So you built all of these on out of Legos?
Yep. I mean,
Nice.
obviously with the manuals, I'm not that skilled,
Oh, that's fine.
but I
As
did.
long as you're building them.
But I did build a vintage fire engine out of Lego without a manual.
Oh, good. So you have interest in the automotive sector.
Yeah, I do. I also like planes. Like right next to me, I
Mhm.
always keep a Boeing 747.
Nice. I see your t-shirt also says Boeing on it, but
Yeah, it does.
good, good.
What do you think is the future of electric vehicles? Do you think that eventually everything will be electric, like from the smallest RC cars, which already are
Mhm.
electric, to big
Mhm.
jumbo jets?
Uh, that is the aim. I believe electric mobility will take over from all the gas guzzling vehicles that are currently on the road. And oil is limited, right? So someday or the other, oil will not be available anymore. So you need to have a look at what alternatives you have. And I think at this point of time, battery powered electric vehicles are the way to go. Then, even in batteries, we have a lot of advancements happening almost on a daily basis. You have a lot of chemistries that are coming in, from lithium ion to sodium to graphene to titanate. So there are a lot of chemistries that people are working on to make batteries more safer, more power dense. Then you have the other side of vehicles, electric vehicles with hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, which is again a very interesting subject, or a very interesting side of electric vehicles. So eventually, yes, all vehicles and all transport will turn electric at some point, and you see that pivot happening at this point as well. And oil is just here for a number of years more. So you will see all planes, trains, ships turn electric in the future.
Yeah, like the first cars were electric, right?
Yes, they were.
They were like powered by
Not,
steam or something, right?
yes, they were steam engine vehicles. There still are a few steam engine locomotives that you have in some cities. Then there were electric vehicles that were built years ago. Ford was one of the first ones to build electric vehicles or an electric car. And then in the late 2000s, I think there was another Ford which had come out electric. But I think those were a bit ahead of their time at that time. And now it's getting a lot more traction.
Yeah, because yeah, you're right. Even eventually, places like Saudi Arabia,
Mhm,
who's literally their entire economy is oil, will run out of
mhm.
oil.
Yes. So oil is a very limited resource that we have. So is lithium, for example, that we currently use to make cells for our battery packs. But lithium is to a degree recyclable, but oil is not. So
What are your hobbies?
cooking, one of them.
Oh, what
I
a
love to cook.
coincidence.
I love to cook. Uh, that is one of my favorite go-tos when I've had a bad day or when I've had a good day. So cooking is one. I follow Formula One, like I just said. Formula One is one thing that I follow religiously for both tech as well as the racing. So these are two of my major hobbies. I like to travel sometimes. I don't get a chance much nowadays, but I do like to travel as well.
Yeah, traveling is fun, and so is
It is.
F1.
Yep. You
I
should try learning cooking also.
yeah, I do sometimes make sandwiches.
Mhm,
Yeah, the reasons I watch F1 is A, the
mhm,
sound, B,
mhm,
when people crash. I don't like it when people crash, but it
mhm.
just you get a chance to be like, oh, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, that are some of the side effects of having a very fast car go around tracks, right?
Yeah, especially
With
street circuits like Monaco,
Monaco,
Singapore.
Baku is another one, Singapore is another. So, yeah, Singapore is not a street circuit though.
It is like half a street circuit.
Yeah,
Like
right.
there's only a permanent starting line. The rest is all straight. Like I
Okay.
travel those streets every week.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
Yeah,
Nice.
but
So,
did you see what happened in Silverstone last year?
yes, the crash, the Alpha Tauri, right?
Alfa Romeo, yeah.
Yeah, Alfa Romeo. Both the teams are a bit confusing, but yeah, I think Joe Ganzu
Yeah, his rookie season.
with Russell. Yeah, with Russell. That was a scary crash. But have you seen the crash Roman Grosjean had the year before that?
Which one?
Roman Grosjean
Yeah,
for the Haas F1 team. He
20.
had a pretty scary car. I
Yeah.
think that was one of the worst crashes in recent times.
The
But
worst one
he's
is Senna.
Senna, yes, that was another decade. But the vehicles have become a lot more safer now
The
as
Halo.
compared to, yeah, the Halo, the side pod structures, the crash tests that they go through. It's now a bit more safer, a lot more safer per se. Because if you look at the past and if you look at today, if the Halo wouldn't have been there, we wouldn't have Roman Grosjean still with us, or Joe Guanzu as well,
Or Lewis Hamilton.
or
When
Lewis Hamilton when the
yeah,
Max Verstappen, yeah,
yeah.
when they were battling for the championship that year. Yes.
Yeah, anyway, thank you so much for coming on my show.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I really enjoyed talking to you. I learned so much.
Likewise, Vedant. I had a lot of fun doing this interview.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Be safe. Always wear a helmet.
Yeah, I will.
Chalo. Bye.
Bye. Dear listeners, follow my Facebook page, Curious Vedant, to get notifications about future episodes. Subscribe by searching for Curious Vedant wherever you get your podcasts, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can also listen to my show on CuriousVedant.com. Thank you for listening to Curious Vedant, and don't forget to rate and leave comments.